Hello, welcome to Recapping with Delora
and Ashley.
Please follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Recapping Podcast.
Also, comment, rate, and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. We're on all the things.
We would love to hear your ratings of the movies and shows we review.
Email us your audio file to recappingpodcast@gmail.com and we will play it during the show.
Or DM us on Instagram and we will post and read it on air.
Thank you guys so much for listening.
Thank you.
Hey, Delora. What's going on, girl?
Hey, Ashley. I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Good. New week, new recap. This week, as we mentioned, we are recapping Senior Year on Netflix. Currently number 1 in the top 10 movies list, dropped May 13th. It is close to 2-hour runtime. And a quick summary: a high school cheerleader falls into a coma before her prom. 20 years later, she awakens and wants to return to high school to reclaim her status and become prom queen. Cast: Rebel Wilson as Steph and Gory Rice as young Steph. The Marthas are played by Mary Holland and Millie Brown. The Tiffanys are played by Zoe Chow and Anna Yi Puing. Hopefully I got that right. The Seths are played by Sam Richardson and Zaire Adams. The Blaines are played by Justin Hartley and Tyler Bernhardt. Avantika as Janet, Joshua Colley as Yaz, and Chris Parnell as Jim. Reviews: Rotten Tomatoes, not kind. Critic score was 27%. Audience score was 54%, but Google users, 84% of y'all F with this film. So, Delora, we've talked about everybody else's thoughts but ours so far. What is your grade for Senior Year?
Well, Ashley, here's the deal. Rebel isn't necessarily my favorite actress. And I say this not to be mean by any means, but I've watched a lot of her projects. I guess I didn't appreciate in the past her playing up being, the chubby funny girl. You know what I mean? It got old after a while. But I sent this to you when I finished the movie. This is one of my favorite Rebel Wilson, one of my favorite films from her. So I give this movie a B. I give it a B because it was fun. It was light. It was so much fun. Like it's on par with my favorite type of movie. Like this is one of my favorite types of movies. It's giving me Never Been Kissed vibes. It's giving me 22 Jump Street vibes. And even elements of Easy A. And I'll talk about that a little bit later, but it was fun.
Yes to Easy A. Absolutely. I also really enjoyed this film. I watched it probably really soon after it was released on like a Friday afternoon, which is one of my favorite times to watch stuff because you're like coming off of the week. It's always nice to see something that's a little kind of light, fun. Exactly. Yes. And so I do really like Rebel, but I feel like is this the first time we've really gotten to see her star and have her own vehicle? And that was exciting to me because I was like, usually she's always in a support role. So I like the expansion on her gifts, essentially.
She did that rom-com that didn't do well with Priyanka Chopra, and
dang, I almost forgot about that.
Yeah,
I almost forgot.
She got in trouble because she was on Ellen. She was like, "This is the first plus-size rom-com," and we're like, "Hold up, Queen Latifah is her name."
Liam was her love interest in that. Yes, You're right. I did like that though. I forgot about that movie.
Fine, but
I liked
controversy for what she said. People were like, "Don't act like you the only plus-size."
I'm sure I heard about it at the time, but I forgive you. You probably just talking about white women, so it's all good.
Girl.
I guess you stand alone in that respect. Okay. But I say all that to say, I give this film a B-. It was funny. It was lighthearted with that early swag. I put in my notes because
we appreciate.
Exactly. So strongly relate to this era. So enjoyed.
Like our Turning Red recap.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. All right, guys, spoiler alert as we get into the good of this film. So to your Easy A reference, I love the fact that the film starts off with interview style, her speaking to us about the events that have unfolded, because that was definitely the way we started Easy A. And that is arguably one of my favorite movies. I rewatch constantly.
Me
Constantly.
too. We're
Like
gonna have to recap it. You have no idea. This is literally one of my favorite.
The comedy and wit alone of her parents, that could have like just slays me every time. I laugh every
Tucci, though,
exactly. I freaking love Stanley Tucci. Protect Stanley Tucci. I know he had a cancer battle. Protect that man. Anyway, let's get into it. Stephanie, our main character, was a freshman in 1999. Sounds like forever ago at this point. We were worried about Y2K. You remember that?
Party like it's 19.
Where were you? Where were you for Y2K, Delora? Where were you?
Girl, at church. Who you talking to? We were probably there since 10 or 9, praying all night, singing praise and worship like we did every year.
Oh, I'm hot. Oh, that's hilarious. I was in bed. I was in bed because my mom had already fallen asleep. So I was like in bed, like worried, like, oh my gosh, we're all going to die. But you know, in that,
did you really think that?
Yes, I was like, oh, this is it. This is probably going to be the end. Because you know, they had doomsdayed it so much. We were young. I was like, I don't really know what's going to happen. We're probably going to die.
I didn't think we were going to die. I just thought all technology was going to crash or something like that.
Yeah, and that was a big thing too. But no, I was like, oh, this is it. This is the end. And then the clock struck midnight and nothing happened. I was like, oh, I'll keep watching the countdown of videos.
We're currently in 2022, so yes.
Exactly. We made it. We made it. But anyway, Stephanie, being a freshman in 99, desperate to be one of the popular cool kids in school after moving to America because she's Australian. And I love that the popular hangout was the roller skating rink because I love to skate. That was a big thing for me back in the day. And Usher is really, with these videos on Instagram, really exciting me again about skating.
So smooth.
Oh my gosh. You don't even understand. I just showed my mom recently because again, the reason why I've been talking about my mom a lot, shout out to mom. I've been visiting for like a month, so she's been getting a lot of me lately.
I'm sure she loves it.
I hope so. I'm leaving tomorrow. It's all good. But yeah, I just, Usher's been getting me in my feelings. So I'm ready to hit the roller skating rink again. But I love this callback because it was a more innocent era without technology and all that stuff. And it was really just about like having a good time, hanging out with your friends. Did you have a hangout that you went to in high school?
Ooh, no. I mean, I was on student council. I was in symphonic band, marching band, AP classes. So I was always on the move, you know what I mean? And so I didn't really do a lot of hanging out because I was probably in somebody's meeting, organizing somebody's event.
Taking over the world.
Performing somewhere. I was also in drama. I did makeup for our stage plays and musicals. Girl, I did everything. So no, I didn't hang out in one spot in particular. How about you?
I can't say that I felt like we necessarily had, at least not me, because I don't feel like I was necessarily a cool kid. Like I was also like very focused on academics. Yeah. I was in an international honors program, all these things. So it just wasn't like I felt like
international. I was part of the National Honors Society, but yeah, you were more fancy, valedictorian over there.
I just felt like it wasn't my time yet to really step out and do those sorts of things. College and beyond,
Duh.
Like, there you go. And yeah, I started working at 16 as well. So, there was a few things going on, but I'm sure there were like cool hangouts or places that people, even some of the clubs, I think by high school, people had started like kind of going out to. So I'm sure there was.
I would always hear people.
I'm sure there was.
And like, I was the type of person that people knew me because I was active, but not because I had the best clothes or I hung out with like the coolest people by any means. But yeah, actually I was known for hanging out with my high school BFF. What it do, Mike? We were inseparable. And so much so that if we weren't together, we knew where each other, where they were. And so people would always come to me and be like, where's Mike? Or come to Mike and be like, where's Delora? And we're like, why are you asking me?
So he was your Stephanie, is what I'm hearing. He was your Stephanie. Love you, Seth. That was wrong of them to do that to you. You had your own identity.
Sweet. He was so sweet.
Yeah.
Not really. We were literally best friends, and it was never romantic, although everybody wanted us to be together. And he's not ugly. He's actually quite handsome.
You hear that, Mike? You're not ugly. Great.
Oh, no. He'll crack up at this, by the way. But him today, he's super, he's a looker for sure. He had to grow. He had to grow into his looks. You know what I mean?
We all, that makes the best looking people. All of us who had to grow into our looks, because I was not a cute kid either. Anyway.
I doubt that, but okay.
I was not. Stephanie used magazines, to your point about being a magazine enthusiast,
yes,
to create the popular life of her dreams. And by senior year, is the cheer captain, dating the most popular boy in school, Blaine, living her best life. Deanna Russo, former cheer captain and prom queen in 95, is living the dream life that Stephanie thinks she's going to inevitably get to. Dream house. She goes by it all the time, watches Deanna with her husband. Oh, it's just a dream. It's a vision. Who doesn't want to be cheer captain and prom queen and go on to live in the perfect 2 kids? What is it? A white picket fence lifestyle.
Yeah. 2.5 children.
2.5, which is always weird because I guess that's the pet, but it always sounds like you're cutting one of your kids in half. Anyway, completely oblivious Stephanie is to the love of her best friend Seth, and low-key is using her other best friend Martha just for the perks, such as her family lake house. Delora, to be honest, as we started getting into the film, I was really impressed that Stephanie had managed to set this goal and craft her life accordingly. I just was like, she could have used these powers for some real good.
For good, but no, what she did, low-key, high-key, is, the vision board and manifesting what exactly she wanted out of life. And to your point, very what we would consider simple things in terms of the overall meaning of life. However, she was killing her goals. I was yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Over the course of 3 years, she had set her sights on these things, and she really she made that ish happen. Any other impressions of Stephanie as we're getting into it?
I actually put in my notes, I'm like, she's so obsessed with being popular. I just found that to be interesting. And we talked about this in other recaps. Being in a predominantly Black school, there are popular kids, but in my school, there wasn't a level of hierarchy that was so dismissive to people who weren't popular, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I wonder, I'm like, is this just Hollywood portraying one thing, or is this how it is at like predominantly white schools or something? Like, I don't know.
I don't either. Never been to them. Couldn't tell you, but that's a good question, because obviously these films and pop culture have such a big influence on our perceptions of things that it does seem like that this has to be how predominantly white schools operate. Some of our white audience and listeners, please let us know. We'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah.
So Stephanie's arch nemesis, Tiffany, who was previously dating Blaine and delivered burns like, "Don't go chasing waterfalls."
Which I love.
Sabotages Stephanie in a new choreography number she put together for the cheerleading squad. And Stephanie takes a nasty fall that puts her in a 20-year coma. Delora, 20 years is a lot of life to miss.
If it wasn't a comedy, it would definitely be a horror story.
Absolutely.
Like, how depressing is this?
You know what it was comparable to me too, is like being innocent and being sent to prison for some long period of time.
And you're stunted.
That was the equivalent to me. And I was like, I would have come out ready to murder somebody.
Wow.
Y'all stole my life from me.
Well, again, this is a lighthearted comedy, but there should have been some lawsuits and jail time for Tiffany.
Girl. And she had the nerve to look so shocked when she fell, like a bag of dicks, as Stephanie says. So when she does wake up, she's figuring out some things. She's seeing what's going on with her old classmates. Blaine is now running a car dealership and is married to Tiffany, living in Stephanie's dream house, devastating. Martha is the high school principal, and Seth is the librarian. They have to do my dude Seth like that. They have to do him like that. Her dad had kept her room the exact same for these past 20 years, never even canceled any of her magazine subscriptions, Delora, and also talked about considering freezing her head because he couldn't afford the whole body.
I'm surprised he could afford to keep her on that long, honestly.
That is the question. How big was that hospital bill? Because you telling me they just kept her rent-free, living in a room in the hospital for 20 years? Don't they at least get moved to a facility after so long? I thought that's kind of how that goes.
Yeah.
All those birthday cards. Seth delivers the old yearbook. They put it in memoriam, basically thinking she was already dead in it. That was a lot to digest. But Steph, singularly focused when she gets back to this life.
But it's giving me just like Heaven, that 2005 Reese Witherspoon movie with one of my favorite rom-com leads, Mark Ruffalo. She was barely in that coma for like 2 months, and they were already talking about pulling the plug. So like it's like 20 years. But yeah, I guess it's part of the joke. I get it.
And I think it's supposed to show probably the level of dedication that her father has.
Who was the real MVP of this movie? Okay,
he's hilarious.
When we see him, he's wearing a freaking Blockbuster polo. You know what I mean?
We're gonna get to my favorite scene that comes up with prom with the dad, because dad kills me. He's hilarious. Stephanie is singularly minded when she gets back that, you know what, I got to go back to school. I got to finish senior year. I got to get back the glory of high school. And again, Martha, her old BFF, is principal. So she convinces Martha, hey, there's only a month left. That's basically the same amount of time I was gone for. Let me come back and finish. And Martha lets this nearly 40-year-old grown woman come back to school. Delora, if you had just come out of a coma, put yourself in Stephanie's shoes. What do you think your priorities would be?
Girl, I don't know. I mean, I get it. The way this part of the story went, it's pretty much, let's pick up where we left off. We were getting ready for prom. I'm getting ready to, live the life I want, which again is heartbreaking if you really think about it in real life terms.
Absolutely heartbreaking.
20 years taken away from you. Wow.
Devastating. And I think it is because this is the comedy that I didn't dwell on it, because again, it's devastating to think about what all she could have done and accomplished from 17 to 37, right?
Right.
It's a long time.
But that is the joke, right? This grown-ass woman reliving her 17-year-old self.
Exactly.
All the boats.
But I was just like, you have a lot to read and learn and figure out, and you're more concerned with going back to try to be prom queen in high school. Like, okay, all right, cool, let's do it. So despite her wardrobe not changing, a lot of other things sure have. The biggest for Steph being the elimination of prom queen. Students can petition to bring it back per Martha. So Steph, of course, starts a petition, and she makes a couple new friends along the way, Yaz and Janet. Tiffany's daughter, Bree, is now the most popular girl in school, but she is more concerned with her brand and her man. Cheerleaders no longer have a captain.
Who's adorable, by the way.
They were so cute together.
So cute.
I really liked them, just in general, but also the couple.
Same.
Cheerleaders no longer have a captain, do stunts, dances, or cheer for the teams. It was actually a lot for me to process. I don't know if there are any schools that exist like this, but I'm not sure what the point of having cheerleaders is.
Well, it was cracking me up. I put in my notes. I'm like, oh, it's the everyone gets a trophy culture. Got it. You know what I mean?
But it went even beyond that. Think about the cheers they were doing, talking about consent and
Wait.
the environment.
Turtles are choking on plastic straws.
I'm like, Martha,
What
you've
they
taken
were
this too
doing
far.
with the hand movements and the head. Oh my goodness, hilarious. And they were so serious, so funny.
And part of it had to do with Martha, and part of it had to do with Bree, who, again, due to her influence, had previously called cheerleaders anti-feminist.
Yeah.
So they had to pivot. But like the dolphin display at school with the used tampons, too far. Too far.
Bree is, again, this is giving me, 21 Jump Street vibes of like walking into this new culture. It's not as toxic or patriarchal as the 80s and 90s. It's like everyone can have painted nails and
and boys wear dresses
and no one bats an eye. And again, Channing Tatum and Jonah Hill, amazing. But it just was giving me those vibes of like, what is going on here? And like all they were talking about in that movie is like, oh, save the environment and this and the other. And it's like, how genuine is it? Because at the end of the day, they're still very mean people. You know what I mean? It's something to that stereotypical popular person that it's like, well, we're doing this for good, but it's all for show. How true are these people's intentions? This is just the latest thing that's worth doing. Kind of like when celebrities all started adopting international babies. You know what I mean?
All about the optics. But obviously, to your point about this new era that Stephanie is being introduced to, she also gets introduced to technology, aka smartphones and Instagram, and she loves it, right? Because she realizes it's just a popularity contest, but for the whole world.
The whole world.
What did you think of her dance number along with some of the other kids to Britney Spears' Crazy?
First of all, that moment was for us because that little snippet was not going to be enough. We needed the entire recreation and chorus of that song. And can I say, Janet is fierce. Like, she was whipping that hair.
Girl, that's why she goes by one name in real life.
In real life.
She knows. She already knows. But I loved it because
I watched it twice, like in the same sitting. I rewound it because I was singing all the words to it.
Drive Me Crazy was one of my favorite teen movies back in the day. Melissa Joan Hart, who was like BFFs with Britney Spears at the time. And they had that, like, it brought me so much joy.
That video was everything.
Nostalgia.
And I'm pretty sure I watched the making of that video and everything.
Oh, because that was the era of making the video. Absolutely.
That's why we probably love, behind the scenes, because they gave it to us. Cribs, making the video. What's the popular MTV? Like, this is not my, you don't know my whole life.
Diary.
Story. Diary. Girl.
We were given all the things back in the day. It was a great era of time. But I'm sorry for the kids who do not have the appreciation for this moment, because it was everything for us. All right.
It was for us. It was our moment.
Blaine wanted that old thing back after Steph's remix of a cheer routine. Is Justin Hartley typecast, or is he always just playing versions of himself?
Of the same person. I literally put this in my notes, Ashley. I was like, why is he still taking the hot guy role when he's on This Is Us? He and Milo was vying for, the awards like Sterling K. Brown. Randall was just a better character. No,
Randall is everyone's favorite.
First of all, Sterling K. Brown is everything. How you doing, cousin? Okay, so for me, his character on This Is Us, it was hard to connect with him anyway because he was that hot guy, right? And so why, when you have the opportunity to do something different, is this for the check at this point? Like, we get the muscles, we get the face and the jawline, but he's gonna be typecast if he doesn't get out this vicious circle, unless he just wants the check.
So that's what I put the question in there. You know, I think he's trash because of everything that had happened with Rochelle, which we talked about. But I am wondering, as an actor, like, is he going to find expansive opportunities after This Is Us is over?
I don't know.
Yeah,
and
because
God don't like ugly. So
well, Kevin definitely is my least favorite character on the show. And for me, it's not even just about the way he looks. His character lacks depth. His character has always lacked depth.
Well, that's what I was alluding to. It had nothing to do with his looks. It is about him being the high guy in Hollywood.
I'm not speaking to your comments. I'm just saying that really is the reason for me that of all the characters, I just never felt a connection to him because he didn't really have anything to feel connected to. You know what I'm saying? And then his personal life overshadowed that. So now it's like, I really didn't care.
Well, Ashley, that's why I'm so behind on This Is Us. I'm so behind because of that. I have not been able to get back in it.
For the love of all the rest of the cast, and it's gonna be a hidden gem for me. Mandy Moore blew me away this season. She was everything this season. Incredible. She deserves some awards. She was incredible. You know, I can't say I really care if Justin Hartley is typecast, but I will say that this did not help because he definitely played this character who you didn't really like. He was coming after Stephanie, even though he was a married man.
Yes.
You find out that he really did overlap with Tiffany and Stephanie back in the day, even though Stephanie said, I'm not trying to cheat with you. And he was being very inappropriate after that little cheer number as a dad sitting in the audience. Well,
actually, he had a maximum of maybe 10 lines in the whole movie, which is another thing where I'm like, why are you using, again, primetime television, royalty, crown jewel of NBC, This Is Us, you're one of the stars, and you take this film and you literally have nothing to say but grunts and showing your abs. Like, I don't get it.
Maybe he just wanted to work with this batch of comedians, actors, Zoe, Sam, Rebel, you know, that's possible. I mean, he did Bad Moms, and that was another comedic role where he is the hot guy. So, you know,
he had more lines in that one though. So to me, I don't know.
I don't think so.
I don't know. It's an interesting career move. It just seems like a check. Easy check at this point.
It might be. And you know, Netflix, when Netflix calls, I'm sure a lot of people answer that call. So it might be. But let's move on. Stephanie blew up as an Instagram influencer, received a bunch of freebies, gave them out of school. She's back to living her best life. She's checking off all the things on her list of getting back to her life that she lived pre-coma, right? She's in a good place. And then Martha delivers some truth bombs. Reveals that Stephanie was not very good to them back in high school, right? They did not share the same experience. She was miserable. She was hiding her true self, her true sexuality. Seth had a major crush, and she just basically used their affection to make the other people jealous. Did you feel like in this moment, this was a aha for Stephanie, or she just kind of took it and was like, oh, okay, I'm sorry to hear that?
She's a 17-year-old girl in the head. She did not absorb any of that because, again, what were her priorities? Popularity, notoriety, and beating freaking Tiffany. Like, it didn't process. It didn't absorb.
I was disappointed because, again, we are looking at a grown woman. I was disappointed because I was like, it's one thing to be oblivious because no one's ever said this to you. But now that it's been said to you, you should take a minute and digest it. You should give it a little more thought, because clearly this is someone who has stuck by your side. She was at the hospital when you woke up. Okay. That's true friendship right there.
Absolutely.
And you're not really taking what she's saying into consideration. So she asked Seth out, but initially it was literally only to make Blaine jealous, this grown married man.
Again, these games that she's playing, 17-year-old girl that a grown-ass man.
It got really awkward there. It got really awkward. Not gonna lie. That was an uncomfortable scene. Even Tiffany cussing out the woman in front of her. I was like, this is a lot. This was a lot. And Zoe, I've never despised Zoe before until this role. I've always loved her.
Really?
I
know
always
she's
loved
on
her.
Your show called The After Party.
Yes, The After Party on Apple. She was just on. Actually, her and Sam. So this is a reunion of them together because they were just on that. Was not the greatest series, but I was right. There's some truths that Stephanie herself reveals during this outing with Seth, which is ultimately her desire for popularity and prom queen really all stemmed from her desire to get over her misery surrounding her mother's death, because that's something I haven't mentioned, that before she got into the coma, her mother had passed away. Her mother seemingly had cancer and had died, and Stephanie really got fueled by it in order to try to find happiness to create this life and this lifestyle for her. Because her mother used to always say things like, oh, if you dream it or you think about it, that's the life you can have. And she used to be so dismissive. So when Stephanie kind of reveals this to you, was this like you understand and you feel a little more empathy for her character about her motivations? Because one could say up until this point, she just seemed very vapid.
I'll go ahead and say, yeah, it did. Because it explained the drive that she had for what seemed like frivolous goals. But in some ways, it was her focusing on something instead of dwelling on the death and grief of losing her mother. You know what I mean? Like what they say, it's a trauma response to throw yourself into work or, whatever you're putting your hands to during trying emotional moments. So yeah, I thought this was the sweetest date. Even though it started off rough, but Seth still had fun, which was nice to see. But yeah.
I agree that this gave me a different view because I couldn't tell how she necessarily took her mother's death. We only got to see little snippets of things like her mother already having a prom dress for her, seeing her in a scene with her mother sitting at the mirror and already kind of talking about feeling like she was ugly and this and that. So I wasn't sure, but it definitely made a lot of sense and gave me a lot of empathy for the character. Because I was like, think about, again, we've talked about this in multiple recaps. There's usually a lot going on behind the scenes within people that we just are not aware of.
Yeah.
And it provides so much grace to get a window into people's souls.
Mm-hmm.
Tiffany forces Bree to get prom king and queen reinstated so that Bree can beat Stephanie. She has not changed at all, Delora. This was very disappointing to me because when Stephanie first woke up and went to the house and had that interaction with Tiffany, I was like, maybe Tiffany is changed and maybe she will be a better person and feel some sort of remorse for robbing this woman of 20 years of life.
The first thing that she said, Ashley, was, I can't believe you didn't stick that landing. Bitch.
Yeah, it was a lot. And also this dynamic with her daughter was very upsetting. Very upsetting.
Was offended when someone said that she was just like her mother.
Yes.
She was like, no, I am not.
No, definitely not like my mother. And we see that Bree, even though she does get it reinstated, she ends up withdrawing at prom because Tiffany tries to sabotage it and overstuff the ballot. So Stephanie finally gets her moment. This choreographed routine that she does with a prom king, I'm like, how long did we rehearse this? How did this happen?
I put that in my notes. I was like, this dance, oh my gosh.
I love that she lifted him.
Of
that
course.
cracked me up.
And they got a chance to play the song that she wanted because that was the big thing in the beginning of the movie.
Exactly.
And when I was watching the interviews to this movie on E in particular, I guess she had body double for her booty.
Oh, that was a body double. Okay.
Yeah, especially with the first cheer dance with the booty shaking, the twerking. Yeah, she had a body double for that, so that was kind of funny to me.
Got it. The after prom party at Martha's lake house did not go as planned, given the fact that Stephanie had not asked for permission 20 years after she originally received it from Martha. And then Petty Tiffany called the cops because she couldn't get over the fact that everybody went to the lake house versus coming to her house because they had Steve Aoki ready to DJ and put on a show. This, I think, was the catalyst for me asking the question before about did she listen to Martha? Because clearly nothing sank in that she still did this. She still did it behind Martha's back. She wasn't thinking about the consequences. She trashed the house. Just the complete disregard at your big age.
17-year-old thinking stunted.
A little bit. Love the Alicia Silverstone cameo that we get, which we talked about as Deanna Russo.
I was incredibly impressed with this and how they tied it together, because I'm like 90s icon.
Exactly. Cher. It's
who
Cher.
would have the perfect life.
It's Cher. Absolutely. And she comes at such a pivotal point in the story.
Yes. When she had no one left to lean on. Yes.
And she needed that final dose of reality, because Stephanie is still looking at with rose-colored glasses about the possibilities once, she fulfills this checklist of things. And Deanna's like, what dream life? I was left without a husband when he left me for some 20-something-year-old. I didn't go to college and get a degree. I wasn't able to support myself, X, Y, and Z. So now she's doing all these things at her older age that she's now in, because she's a Lyft or Uber driver. And it was just a wake-up call for, I think, Stephanie to realize that even if I accomplish all these things on my bucket list, that obviously does not mean that I'm going to have a good life or a happy life or what have you. All those goals she had set out were truly superficial in the fact that they weren't going to secure success.
So I have a question for you, Ashley.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have the same goals as your 17-year-old self?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. At 17, I was trying to really figure out what I was ultimately going to do with my life, because up until that point, I thought I was going to go into medicine.
Oh, yeah.
And then I made a major shift because I was like, I don't think I can do this for the rest of my life. So I was very undecided about a lot of things. And, my biggest goals were more academic based and just doing my best in those ways.
Yeah.
And I wasn't necessarily, I didn't have the long game figured out. So my goals have definitely shifted. What about yours?
I was always focused. I was focused at a very young age. We've talked about this. I was a serious child, so much so that my little boyfriend from 8th grade was surprised that I didn't go to U of M, because I was like, in middle school, I was like, I'm going to U of M. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. And I kept most of those goals. They were very general at this point. Although I thought I was going to go to U of M, I ended up going to Bowling Green State University. Let's go Falcons. You all gave me the most money.
Indeed.
But finish college, that was always a goal, and to be in the corporate world. I think that was my general understanding of what my life was going to be. But we've had this conversation, now being a woman in my 30s, a woman, it's one of those things where there are certain aspects in my career or something like that little Delora would be so proud of, that me, Delora, now is like, do I really want this?
Well, you live and you learn. That's why I said, I don't know if anybody's goals are necessarily the same. I think some people know so definitively what they want to do career-wise, but I think there's so many other facets of life that you don't realize how impactful all of that stuff is until you reach certain ages, right? Because your quality of life is very important. And that is not just about the job you choose. That's about so many other factors of life. And then you have goals just with,
the macro of things, not even just the micro, the macro of our world.
But you also have goals that are so much more tied into your health and into mental wealth and wellness. And, you know, there's just so many other things that once you're really in the adulting space, you start setting goals and thinking about. So, I mean, not to say that any of those things weren't valid. I think they're all valid as you go through life. But I think things, just change and morph as they need to. And hopefully, as long as you're not hopefully disappointing your 17-year-old self, which I know I'm not, I'm good to go. So,
no. And you know, what's that Ali quote? Like, you know, something about a man's age at one age versus an older age, and if he's the same, he's just wasted that many years of life. I'm really jacking up this quote, but it essentially is talking about you should evolve.
Absolutely. Life's about growth.
Exactly.
To kind of round out the film, Stephanie does an IG live, which is what we started the film with, to apologize, make amends, let everybody know what she, you know, really has been going through. Tiffany also pops up to apologize and to make amends with her daughter, who is not really messing with her until she did what she needs to do and issue her own mea culpa. We end on Stephanie's choreographed routine from back in high school that they performed at graduation as an homage, because she had a tape that she put in the high school archives back in the day so that people would always be able to remember it and do it.
I appreciate her audacity, though.
She had a lot of audacity. Do you think that you could have recreated that number given the fall? Because I cringed my way through.
First of all, the fact that she approached it with zero hesitation, which is necessary when you do flips and stuff like that. Reminding me of Jerika's conversation of doing the hurdles, is like, you have to attack the hurdles. You can't second guess it. No way, no how. Why would I even, you know, but again, 17-year-old, who knows? You know, you're allowed to bump your head a couple of times when you're that young.
Girl, not if I hadn't been out of commission for 20 years. I mean, I was her dad. Like, I breathed a sigh of relief when that was over. I was like, woof, you are better than me. You take that, when you fall, get back up to a whole nother level, Stephanie. So good for you. Good for you, sis. Delora, any final thoughts? Because we also have the fun kind of scenes at the end with the cast, everything. I always love those. It looks like they had a blast making this film. Love that for you guys. Any final thoughts on senior year?
Final thoughts on senior year. One of my favorite jokes is when they were going to do the cheer routine at the PTA meeting, and they gave her a USB, and she was like, "Thank you for this computer tampon." That was hilarious to me. Okay. And another heartfelt moment is when she had that heart to heart with her father, and he was like, "I absolutely count," because she was doing the, "Oh, you don't count. Oh, you don't count." And I was like, sis, this man has kept you alive for 20 years. He has already lost his wife. You are all that he has. He absolutely counts, because they were talking about who was going to be sitting at graduation.
What a powerful message that he gave. Just the idea that why would you waste time trying to impress the people who don't care about you? The people who care about you are the only people who matter.
Exactly.
And that's something, again, that comes for most with age and maturity.
Yes.
You expending too much energy on strangers, sis. My final one I forgot to bring up was the prom situation with Seth and the dad, when he was waiting for her to come down, and he asked him, did he want a beer? He was like, sure, a beer. Yeah. So you gonna drink and drive with my child? Oh, I'm not driving, we're taking a lift. Oh, so you trying to take advantage of my daughter? Do you have a condom? No, I don't have a condom. You don't have a condom. Do you want me to sleep with your daughter? What did you say to me? Like that whole scene.
It was like, do you want me to sleep with you?
That whole scene about took me out. Like the dad was comic gold. Sam Richardson is always comic gold.
Yes.
Going even back to Veep, which was one of my first introductions to him. He's hilarious. But man, that was one of my favorite scenes. What'd you just say to me? Like,
I want to know what he does for a living though, because again, he was wearing a Blockbuster polo. So I'm like, did he afford to keep this girl alive?
I don't know what daddy does, but he held it down. All right. That's it for our recap of senior year, guys. We hope you enjoyed the film. We hope you enjoyed the recap. Feel free to leave us some comments, leave us some info. Let us know how you enjoyed it via social or email or however else you want to reach us. We're here. Delora, what you got for hidden gems this week?
Yes, and really quick for that Ali quote, it goes like this: a man who views the world the same at 50 as he did at 20 has wasted 30 years of his life. So there's that. You're welcome, everyone. All right. Hidden gems. So the first one, it is a YouTube channel by PBS because they're the GOAT, of course. And they have different themed channels. And this one in particular is called Storied. Storied. Basically, it's a channel, and I'm reading this from the About, is home for arts and humanities shows from PBS Digital Studios. And for the most part, they explore art, culture, mythology, and much more. So the videos I've watched that I really enjoyed is under Fate and Fable. This one titled How Isis Brought Her True Love Back from the Dead, and that talks about Egyptian gods. This other one, The Fates, Greek mythology's most powerful deities. Again, Greek mythology, I love all of this stuff. So a lot of fun. And then they have just a lot of other types of themed videos. It's called It's Lit, and they explore everything from the Harlem Renaissance to Ernest Hemingway to Anne Rice. And then this other one called Monstrum. And this one's pretty cool because one of the videos that I enjoyed is called Why the Dragon is Central to Chinese Culture. And it really explores like scary things in literature. You can geek out with me and watch this YouTube channel. My second hidden gem is a coming of age romance series on Netflix. It's called Heartstopper. It's based in Britain. It's about two young men. One is openly gay. The other one is the popular rugby player. And we live through Charlie Spring's eyes. Sweet, kind boy, and him crushing on a hetero, sports jock, and whether or not they're gonna be able to have a relationship or not. It has 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, and I'm so excited because, as everyone knows, I love a good rom-com and romance story, and I feel like they're really making a comeback, and it's probably because we need love in the world that we live in right now. But
indeed,
it is 8 episodes. It came out in April. It's based on based off a comic. It's just such a sweet story and worth a watch. So that's all I have today. Ashley, how about you?
All right. I will run through mine. I had already mentioned my Mandy Moore hidden gem. This is the final season of This Is Us. I literally just watched the series finale today. Mandy Moore deserves her flowers this season. She acted her ass off. And if she does not win somebody's Emmy, somebody's something, she was robbed, because to give the breadth of time that Rebecca spans, even over the course of the series so far, but especially this last season and everything that she and the family go through, she was magnificent.
Wow.
And that's really all I have to say. She was magnificent to bring out even the emotion that you'll feel towards Rebecca this season. She was exceptional.
Really?
So Mandy Moore, hidden gem number 1, final season of This Is Us. Hidden gem number 2, The Valet on Hulu. This was one that was just very silly, lighthearted, rom-com.
Really long though.
It didn't feel long. Maybe it was the mood I was in. It didn't feel long. I stuck with it. But our guy, Mr. V from Coda, was the star alongside Samara Weaving. And it was, again, one of those like an Overboard type, or even Notting Hill, where it was like the superstar and the everyday person. Even the Beauty and the
Baker.
Thank you. Which I was about to call the
ABC.
Beautician and the Beast, because remember that movie back in the day? Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, it was another one of those types of tales, but with some other things kind of going on in the mix. Like it really emphasized love of family and all these various things, and it was interesting. I enjoyed it. And friendship. It was a good one. The Valet on Hulu. Check it out. My final is just a couple of Chicago restaurants that I enjoyed while I was out of town. One is an authentic, wonderful Italian restaurant called Sofi. It's on Dearborn Street. I feel like my waiter, Albine, was everything. He was my waiter. He was the bartender. He literally walked us through the menu, talked about all his favorites. Like, it was just such a great experience for a restaurant, especially in terms of service, in terms of the food, everything. I tried truffles for the first time, which were amazing.
Oh, fun.
It was just such a good experience. And I love Italian. Italian is my absolute favorite.
Mine too.
Sofi, Dearborn Street, Chicago. Check it out. And then my last restaurant was not my last, and I enjoyed everything I ate, to be honest. 14 Parrish was a great one, Jamaican restaurant over in Hyde Park. Again, great service. One of the owners came and talked to us and made sure we had a great time. We went for brunch, and I am a brunch loving person. So they are available for all the things, but brunch in particular was really good. I had a jerk wrap. Fire. Enjoyed all of my dining experiences, but those 2 restaurants I wanted to point out in particular that were really, really good. So those are my hidden gems for this week as well, guys. Thank you so much for sticking with us and listening to another episode. We'll be back on Thursday with our usual headlines and hot topics. Delora, it is always a pleasure, my friend.
Always a pleasure.
Guys,
and I love you.
Love you too.
In the world that we live in, I want you to know I love you.
I love you too, and I feel it, and I'm sending it right back to you, and I'm sending it to all of our lovely listeners around the world. We appreciate you guys, and we hope
so much.
Stay safe out there. Absolutely. We'll see you next time.
Bye.